Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be my labor and delivery story, as you guys can see by the title. So if you want to hear my story, then just keep on watching. First of all, there's going to be a lot of background noise because my son is playing in the background. And yeah, so let's just jump right into the video. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that it did take us a while to actually conceive. I was part of the Trying to Conceive community for a year and 9 months until I finally got pregnant. I still have the video of when I actually told my husband I was pregnant. We weren't even really expecting it. We were trying, but after so many times that, I peed on the stick, it was negative. Finally, the day that I took my test and it came back positive, we were just so excited. So I'm gonna roll the clip on when I told my husband. Okay, please open your gift. Pink, blue, pink, blue, pink.
Is it?
There's more in here.
Can be. Really? Really?
Okay, so as you guys saw, he just really couldn't believe it, and finally we were pregnant. We were excited, like everything was going great. So my due date was October 2nd, and I was 39 weeks exactly, actually. So the day that I actually started getting contractions was a Sunday night. I was 39 weeks at that point. My husband was actually out of town. He had gone to a funeral for one of his cousins that had just passed away September 8th. And this Sunday was his viewing, and then Monday, the next day, was gonna be his burial. So Sunday was the 25th, and then Monday was the 26th. So Sunday I had spent the whole day, it was the 25th, I had just spent the whole day like cleaning my house, organizing, and finally, like, I decided to go to my mom's house that night because I didn't want to stay at home in case I actually started getting contractions. So I went to my mom's house. I was there pretty much the whole afternoon. My parents have a golf cart, and me and one of my aunts that lives behind my parents' house went on a golf cart ride, as well as my grandma. So we all went on a golf cart ride to take maternity pictures. So I'll insert a picture of that. And then I think the golf cart ride started my contractions. So I was getting little tiny contractions, like those ones that almost feel like they're not even real. And I didn't even really know if they were contractions or not. Like, I mean, this was my first pregnancy. You don't know what a contraction really feels like. I just started saying, I think I'm getting contractions. I'm not really sure. But anyways, we went home. I went to my parents' house. We laid down. It was about 9 p.m. As I laid down, I actually felt something like pop inside of me, and I almost kind of like heard it too. So I kind of freaked out. I was like, well, what was that? Like, I don't know what that is. Disclaimer, by the way, there is going to be a little bit of graphic details in here. So sorry if you don't want to hear it, then go ahead and click away from the video. But here we go. So once I heard something pop, I kind of just sat up a little bit, and then I kind of got up off of the bed. I was actually laying in my little sister's bed. I was gonna spend the night there with her in her room. As I stood up, I kind of felt something like come out. Like, it wasn't my mucus plug. It was actually just like leaking. And I thought, like, am I peeing myself? Like, what the heck's going on? So I went to the bathroom, and it was just like clear. So I thought, okay, am I like peeing myself? Because it's not, I thought it's not my water. Like, it would have went everywhere, or that's like what we see in movies and stuff. So I just thought, it's not my water. Okay, so I went back to bed, and then I started getting little contractions. But I was actually contracting at this point, and I didn't really know it. So I was getting contractions, like it just felt like a pain. Like, I mean, I don't really know how to describe a contraction, but it felt like a dull feeling, like on the sides. and it was like in my back and down my hips. Like, so I thought this is kind of weird. Like, I thought contractions were like in your stomach. I mean, I'm about to give birth, so what's going on? And then I just laid down and I like stayed laying down and I tried to hold in the pain. At this point, it was probably like 11 p.m. and I started texting one of my sisters because I have two sisters and I was laying next to one. And then I texted my other one. She's an older sister I have. And I started telling her, like, I heard like a noise inside of me, like a pop or something. Is that normal or what's going on? And she's like, well, maybe your water broke. And I said, no, because I didn't see any water. Like, I went to the bathroom and there's like a little bit of leaking. And she said, well, actually that's how it can start. Like, you can start leaking a little bit at a time and then, you know, your water can eventually like rupture or it just comes out a little bit at a time. So I thought, okay, well, whatever, like, let's just go back to sleep. And hopefully it's not because my husband's not here. And she's like, yeah, hopefully not. So I tried to go to sleep. I actually never slept that whole night. The contractions were getting stronger and stronger. So I decided to download an app like at 12 a.m. and I started timing them. And at that point, my contractions were already like 4 or 5 minutes apart. So I thought, okay, that's weird. Like, should I go to the hospital? So I stayed in bed for the next about 3 hours and tried to hold in the pain. I kept timing the contractions. They finally got to like 2 minutes apart and they kept lasting about 1.5 minutes. So they were really, really painful, really long. Like, I didn't really get a break in between. I mean, I was getting them every 2 or 3 minutes and then they were lasting really, really long. So it was really painful. So I finally got up and told my mom, okay, Mom, I think we need to go. And she's like, what's going on? And I said, I'm getting contractions. And she's like, are you serious? Like right now? I'm like, yes. And I've been having them since like 9 p.m. So then at that point I texted my husband and I told him, hey babe, wake up. I'm getting contractions. I've been getting them for like a long time. I actually think I was texting him like during the time I was texting my sister as well. So I finally said like, okay, we're going to the hospital. I will let you know if they keep me or not. And he's like, all right, that's fine. So my husband was about 2 or 2.5 hours away from where I live. So I said, so if they do accept me or like they admit me or whatever, then I will tell you so you can like drive on over. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. So he tried to go to sleep and like get some rest, which actually never happened because I got to the hospital, they checked me and I was at 2, only 2 with all that pain. Like my contractions were so close, but they did say that my water had broke. So they were going to keep me. So then I texted my husband, I said, okay, they're gonna admit me, like if you can come on now, like that'll be great. At that point, it was already like 4 a.m. So they put that little belt thing that they put around your stomach. They saw my contractions were really close together. They got like everything ready for my room and stuff. So they took me to my room and my contractions were so close together. They were probably, do you guys see my backdrop moving? That's my son messing with it. So they saw that my contractions were like about 1 minute apart. So the little paper that shows the contractions was doing this. Like it wasn't even like a contraction and then a break. No, it was like this. So all of them were really, really strong. And they said, are you gonna want the epidural? And I said, yes. So they said, we're gonna check you. We wanna see that you're actually making progress before we give you the epidural. So they checked me and I was still at 2. At this point, it was probably like 4:45 or something. And then they said, we can't really give you anything. We can give you like pain medication through your IV and that's it. So that's what we did. And it made me like really nauseous. Like I almost threw up and stuff, but thankfully I didn't. So from 4 to like 6 a.m. I was just like in unbearable pain. Like, of course, you guys know the whole contraction deal if you're a mom. But then finally my husband came. The nurses came in and they checked me once again and I was at 6, almost 7. So in about 2 hours, I went from being 2 to almost 7. So that was about 5 centimeters. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is good. Like, and then finally they said, you can get the epidural now if you want. And I was kind of debating, like, I didn't know if I should get it because I was only about 3 centimeters away now from like, you know, pushing. So I was already at 7 or almost 7. So I said, fine, I'll just get it. Like I'll get the epidural. And the anesthesiologist came in, you know, the whole epidural thing. They bend you over and give you the epidural. So my mom was actually in the room with me while I got the epidural. I can only pick one person at this point. I just wanted my mom. Like I really just wanted my mom. So I did forget to mention that right before my husband got there, My contractions were really, really close together, that my uterus, I guess, didn't have enough time to like catch up with the contractions. So my son's heart rate dropped really low. It was like at 40 or 50 at this point, and it wouldn't come back up. So the nurses came in and they put oxygen on me, and they explained that because my contractions were really close together, my uterus didn't really have enough time to catch up with the contractions. So the heart rate of the baby just dropped. And they said, we're gonna contact your doctor, see what he says. If he wants us to slow down your labor, that's what we're gonna do. And so they contacted my doctor, and he said, don't slow down her labor. She's doing fine. If it happens again, then we will slow it down. So I was pretty excited that they weren't gonna do that, because they said that my contractions could go from being like really close together to like 10, 15 minutes apart. And I obviously didn't want that. Like, I wanted this baby out as soon as possible. So then that's when I got the epidural. So after the epidural, of course, everyone's body is different, and my body actually just began to like shiver. So I was like shaking the whole time, and it was kind of scary. Like, I didn't know if that was normal. So I kept asking, like, is that okay? Is that normal, or what's going on? And they said it was. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And then at this point, it was probably like 9 or almost 10 a.m. And they decided to check me again, and they said, you're at 8, almost 9, so we're gonna practice pushing. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I was already numb at this point from like my stomach down to my legs. So they put me in the pushing position, and I began to push, and I kept pushing and pushing, and my mom was holding one leg, my husband was holding another leg. They were having me push for like 30 minutes or so. They said that I was just gonna practice for now, just until the doctor was done with a C-section that he was doing, and then he would come into my room, and they said at this point you should be at 10. So that's what we were doing. We were just practicing pushing. The doctor finally came into my room, asked if I was ready, and the nurses said no, the baby doesn't actually look like he's far down enough. So they could see the head at this point. My husband said he saw the head, and the nurse was sticking her like hands in and like trying to pull the baby out. Sorry that this is so graphic. If you don't want to hear it, then click away. She was pulling the baby's head, and I was pushing and doing everything they told me. Like, they say, hold it for 10 seconds. That's what I was doing. Like, I thought, this is it. Like, all I have to do is just keep pushing, and my baby will be out. Suddenly though, my baby's heart rate dropped, and it was like at around 40 or 43, I think. It was like the highest it even went. So it was really, really low. Like, every time I looked over, it was really low. So they called the doctor in, and it wasn't the doctor that I wanted. It was a doctor that does work with him, but it wasn't my doctor. And this doctor came in, checked me, and said, yes, the baby's still too high up. There's nothing that we can do. She's gonna need a cesarean. That's exactly what he said. And then all the nurses like were running everywhere. They threw like this little uniform at my husband, and my husband like started putting it on, and they're like, Dad, you're gonna be in the room with her. Mom, you're gonna wait here. So my mom was like waiting there. I was completely numb from my stomach down. So there was nothing I can do at this point. Not that I would like run away or anything, but I don't know. I just felt like I was stuck there. Like, I couldn't do anything, and I didn't want a C-section. Like, the C-section was the last thing that I wanted. I was already pushing. I mean, come on. So then they said, well, just add more anesthesia. Is that even how you say it? In the operating room. So they lifted the little handles up and just rolled me out. So I was just there kind of looking around, really nervous, really scared, saying like, no, I don't want a C-section. They said, this is the last thing that we can do to help your baby. And I said, well, what's going on? And they said, well, we think that the cord is around his neck because he's not coming down any further, and then his heart rate is not coming back up at all. So we really need to get you to the OR right away. I think they said they had about 6 minutes before the baby actually suffered injuries. Like, I don't know if it was like brain trauma, or like, I'm not really sure exactly what would have happened at that point, but they took me to the room. They added more anesthesia, or the numbing medication, whatever it's called. I don't know how to pronounce it. Okay, so once they rolled me into the OR, I was on my bed from like my room still. So they took the sheet off, and then from there they moved me onto the operating table, and then it was like a completely different environment. I mean, we went from my cozy, dark, nice room to like this really, really bright, like lights were in my face. Like, I remember, I mean, I had to, obviously I was laying back. So I was like laying back, I can see all the lights. And then they put up like this curtain, like from here straight up. And then my husband wasn't even in the room with me yet. I felt like pressure, not pain, but I can feel like they were like strapping my legs down, and it was like a really uncomfortable thing. Like I was freaking out. I didn't know where my husband was at this point. So I asked the anesthesiologist, like, where's my husband? Like, I thought he was gonna be in the room with me. And they said, yes, he's coming, like, give us a second. So they needed to get like everything ready. I just remember they took roll too, like they asked like all the doctors' names and like nurses and everything, and they were writing down who was there and who wasn't and stuff. And so it was just like a really scary thing for me. I've never ever had any type of surgery before, so it was all so new to me. I didn't know if I was gonna go completely numb or not. Because they added more numbing medication, my whole body, so I was already numb from my stomach down, so suddenly I began to feel my chest like really heavy. And then at that point they called my husband in and they said, okay, you can wait here. They had like a little line and they gave him like a stool and said, you can sit here, don't cross this line. So he was there and I reached my hand out and I was just holding his hand. And then I began to feel like I was going numb all over. So my chest was like really heavy. Since I was holding his hand, I was like moving it a little bit and I just couldn't feel his hand anymore. And I said like, I can't feel anything. And he's like, you're okay, you're okay. And I told the anesthesiologist like, I can't feel anything. And then, so I decided to like try to move my head, and my head, I couldn't move it either. Like the only thing I could do was breathe through my mouth and move my eyes and of course talk. But even my nose was congested at this point. Like I was trying to breathe through my nose and I just couldn't. It was the scariest thing of my life. I really thought I was gonna die. And because I was so nervous at this point, like it was just so scary to me. I was really nervous. Like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if I was gonna go completely numb, eventually not be able to breathe through my mouth at all. I mean, I obviously thought the worst. So I started to get like really uneasy. My stomach was hurting sort of. Like it was weird because I couldn't feel it, but I felt like dizzy and I felt like throwing up. So I told my husband, turn my head, because I couldn't move my head at this point. And he turned my head and I kept like gagging and stuff. And like, he's like, you're okay, you're okay. And I was like, no, I think I'm gonna die. Like I actually did think I was going to die. And if this seems a little extreme for you guys, well, I'm sorry, this is just me. Like I was panicking. Of course, this is like the scariest thing that I ever went through, first of all. And then second of all, like I was about to deliver my baby and then it just didn't happen the way I expected it. So it was just all very unexpected and I didn't really know what to think or like what to even say, you know. Then I finally felt like almost like a wave went through me, like something like gushed out or something. And I think that was when they were like pulling the baby out. Then as soon as he was pulled out, they said confirmation, it is a boy. And then they said yes, the cord was around his neck. So I could kind of hear like what was going on and stuff, but at the same time, like I don't remember everything. I do remember that they did weigh him and they said he is 7 pounds 1 ounce. And then I heard him cry, and that right there, so I'm not trying to cry at all. So but anyways, when I heard him crying, so ironic, like right, that was just the happiest, best feeling of my life. Like I knew he was okay and I knew I was okay. Like they had taken him out successfully and everything was okay. So I think they began to like sew me back up and stuff, and they handed the baby to my husband, and my husband showed me David, and then David looked right into my eyes and I knew like, this is it. Like I'm a mom. That was hard, of course, but I'm okay and everything's okay. And they said, okay, everything's done. Like, we're gonna move you into the next room, like to your recovery room. So they took me back into the room where I had started this whole thing, and then my mom was waiting there. It felt like an eternity to me. My mom said that we were only gone for about like 30 minutes, and it just felt like forever to me though. At this point, my arms were still numb. Like I could move my head a little bit. Like everything was coming unnumb, I would say, but from my head to my toes. So I began to like feel my head, like I could move my head, and finally like I could start feeling my arms and stuff. But this was about 2 hours later when I finally got to hold my baby. Besito. Besito. So this is David now. He is 17 months, almost 18 months. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much my whole labor and delivery story. The C-section did stop hurting at around, I would say, 3 months or so. Like it still does hurt to this day. Like I said, now it's more like of a sore feeling and not so much like painful. But I hope this wasn't too scary for you guys. I mean, it's reality. Emergencies happen. So hopefully next time I get pregnant, I can have the child normal. They said it is possible to have a VBAC because I was actually dilated and I was pushing and everything. It was just the cord, and that was the reason why I had the C-section. But hopefully the next one is normal. But anyways, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you guys all for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. The button is right there. Turn on your post notifications if you guys want to be notified when I upload a video. But that's it for this video, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.